Good afternoon. Dr. Norton here with some Harry Potter lectures. I've got one for you today. Now, I'm imagining a situation that may have taken place in your life this week. You're sitting at the beach. Perhaps you are reading your Harry Potter book. A friend comes up and asks, why are you reading that children's book? You respond, this is a required text for my summer literature class. The friend, in a very academic, snobby voice, proclaims, Harry Potter is not literature. My apologies if you receive this kind of rebuke, and especially if you receive this rebuke before this lecture, because I'm going to arm you with some responses here. Not that you need to justify yourself. Hey, enjoy your Harry Potter as much as you want, right? But in truth, there is much to this text that is beyond just a children's text. For many years, both Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were both seen as children's book writers, which is a great irony because those texts are deep and valuable. As is, I believe, in many ways, Harry Potter. I wouldn't say that Harry Potter is in the same level as Tolkien, that J.K. Rowling has created the same type of epic journey as we see the Hobbits take in Tolkien, but there is a lot of very good stuff in this book, and much that is beyond what a child will catch. The beauty of it is that it is at the level that a child can pick up, but it is also the level at a collegiate point where we can actually see a lot of really deep things that are going on and engage a pretty important tension, I believe, that's part of our lives today. So jumping right in, J.K. Rowling, I'm not going to go into her biography too much because you probably see her on TV all the time. It's almost like giving you, President Obama's biography. It's just out there everywhere. So I'm not going to waste time with that. Feel free to go and look up her background. One of the important things I see, obviously, she's born and raised in England, and she went to University of Exeter, where she earned a bachelor's degree in classics. And so in classic literature, in the classic mythological and Greek texts, she really studied and earned a degree in that field. And so really we see a lot of that coming out in her text here. The classical foundation is really what lies at the base of Harry Potter, this classics foundation, and the foundation of Greek mythology. So starting out, let's take Fluffy. I'm going to go through a few of the things right away. This is your first week in the text, and so I won't give anything away for the end if you haven't read it before, but Fluffy, you're going to meet Fluffy early on in the text. Fluffy is the three-headed dog that guards the passage to the tunnel where Harry and his friends want to go. They feel there's some mystery there in this tunnel. Rowling draws this character from Greek mythology. Cerberus is a character, a mythical Greek character, a giant three-headed watchdog that guards the passage to Hades, actually, which is the underworld, right? Fluffy shares her weakness with Cerberus, and I don't think in the first half of the text you're going to actually realize what the weakness is. I'm going to give that away. The weakness is music. Orpheus, in Greek mythology, is a character. He wants to visit the underworld to see his dead wife. And this is illegal. And that is why Cerberus is there, to keep people from coming down there and visiting hell or visiting Hades. So Orpheus wanted to visit the underworld to see his wife, and using the lovely music of his harp, Orpheus sent Cerberus snoozing, and he walked right into Hades. Pretty cool. Harry's lightning bolt scar can be connected, obviously, to Zeus, right? I don't know if you ever think about Greek mythology. You don't have to be a Greek scholar to know that Zeus is known for throwing lightning bolts onto the earth. And so what is it about Harry's scar that connects him to something beyond the physical? Now, at no point in the text do we see that Harry is a god, or even god-like necessarily, but he does have an unearthly calling. He does have a calling that comes from somewhere beyond the earth. So, Harry is considered the chosen one. And this kind of builds into that, right? He's one who's marked for greatness. He's marked by God, if you will. We can look at other characters in ancient Hebrew literature. Cain and Abel, actually. Cain was marked by God so that he would not be destroyed by men. Interesting. So Harry is considered the chosen one. His fame is prophesied, in a sense, much like that of the Christ or the Messiah in ancient Hebrew literature as well. Harry can be considered, in some ways, a Christ figure. And hopefully, with your reading of the Foster, be able to pick up on some of these ideas. How can Harry be considered a Christ figure? That puts him in the tradition of other great literary texts. We have a Christ figure in this one. The name Hermione. The name can be traced to some classic Greek stories as well, namely to the face that launched 1,000 ships. Whose face is that? You should know this, right? Because just in the last text we read, Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus wants to see who? He wants to see Helen of Troy. And Helen of Troy claimed to be the most beautiful woman of all history, of all literature. She had a husband named Menelaus, and he was a Greek, and she's a Greek. Helen is actually not originally from Troy, but rather from Greece, and so Menelaus was her husband. She and Menelaus, Helen and Menelaus, were husband and wife. They had a child. Their child was named Hermione, and when we see in the story of the Iliad, we see oh man, I'm just blanking on this guy's name. Oh my goodness. Paris. Sorry. So Paris is a Trojan. He comes to Greece and he meets Helen, and they fall in love. And he flees Greece with Helen. And this causes the great war between the Greeks and the Trojans. And that's why they battle for many, many years. And that is why Helen is called the face that launched 1,000 ships. They launched 1,000 ships from Greece to Troy and started this massive war. And that's what Homer's Iliad is all about, is the war over Helen. Because Helen was, quote-unquote, taken from Greece, although she ran away with Paris, the great handsome man from Troy. Okay, so going back to my point here, Hermione is the daughter. She was 9 years old when Helen, her mother, was swept away by Paris and gone back to Troy. So, what is this? Why is this significant? To be honest with you, I haven't totally come to the conclusion on this one. I think it's worth wrestling about. Why is it significant that Hermione would be considered an important character name? Now, here's a cool thing I'm going to do. Erica, let me have that little guy. I have a little a show and tell here for you. You have a baby? What's he doing?
High chair.
Oh, he is? Want to bring him in here or no? Okay, well, I was going to show my little boy because it's kind of like Harry Potter, but anyway, it's not working out right now. So we see Helen of Troy in Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. What might Rowling be doing with this character? That's a good question. And her connection to the great war between the Greeks and the Trojans. Now, one interesting connection that I have pinpointed that I think is pretty cool, and it's on a little deeper level. And that is between Rowling's Hermione and her Greek namesake. The fact that Hermione is closely connected to books and book learning. That is one of her most significant attributes in this text, in the Harry Potter first book, is Hermione is all about book learning. Hermione is all about the books and the letter of the law and so forth, right? Well, where is Hermione birthed from? She's birthed from books. Go with me here. She comes from literature. She is a product of literature. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So here is like a little Harry Potter, a chosen one as a baby, marked for greatness. He doesn't have a lightning scar on his head. That's all right. So in a literary way, Hermione is born from a book, Homer's Iliad, and she, therefore, is bound to books, pun intended, because that is her literal and figurative heritage. Next one, Professor McGonagall. Her first name is Minerva. Minerva is the Roman name for a famous Greek goddess named Athena. Athena was the Greek goddess of wisdom. Whoa, look at that. That's not, wow, is that interesting? I'm not sure what language that's in. That must be some kind of Muggle language that I'm not familiar with. Anyway, I'm sure he's saying something brilliant. But Athena was the Greek goddess of wisdom and the goddess of war and peace. And she was a great help to two heroes, Odysseus and Hercules. Now it's a little bit of a stretch here, Athena, Minerva, but Minerva, or Professor McGonagall, does play an important role in promoting both Harry particularly Harry, but also Harry, Ron, and Hermione, right? It is interesting to note that Odysseus, whom in classic mythology Athena aided, Odysseus I find is very similar and an interesting way connected to Harry Potter's character. Odysseus is a great hero. He's heroic on a level that's different from like an Achilles, who is just an angry, powerful, physical man. Odysseus is also very physical and strong, but more importantly, he's known for being clever, for being cunning and strategic. These are qualities that Harry possesses too. This is the one that's a bit of a stretch here. It's interesting also that Hercules, also helped by Athena, but Hercules is known for his strength, and obviously we have in this book Ron playing the role of a Hercules character, perhaps by attacking Malfoy and giving him a black eye. A very physical kid. Ron also plays the part of the physical character in the chess game at the end that I won't give away, but there's a physicality to Ron in that chess game as well. So his character is one that is more of a physical character, one who is physically strong and kind of daring in that way. The novel also engages a tension that has been of relevance since the beginning of time, and that is the tension between the physical and the spiritual. Right at the beginning of this book, actually, let me grab it here. At the beginning of this book, we see this tension established. But actually, before I get to that, let me read this to you. Writing about Greek mythology, and particularly Iliad and the Odyssey, there's a scholar named Gregory Nagy. You can find him online and in various texts. He writes about the Iliad, and he says this: in the Iliad, we see the poet's awestruck sense of uncontrollable forces at work in the universe, even of a personified concept of force itself. So Nagy is talking about how what we see in Homer's great epics, both the Iliad and the Odyssey, we see the poet's awestruck sense of uncontrollable forces at work in the universe. This is the non-spiritual, the non-physical or the spiritual forces at work. What are the spiritual forces at work in the universe? This is a question that Homer was really kind of working with in both these texts. And the subject of his texts really kind of circled around this. We have gods at work in the lives of men in both these great epics. So, let's take a look at this first paragraph. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. You wanna get down? You can. Wanna crawl? Oh, I think he just tooted on my class. Okay, that's fine. Wanna crawl a little bit? Here you go. I'll put you down here while I kind of finish this. So check this out. We have a major tension, physical versus spiritual. Muggles. Muggles in this text, if you're noticing or not, they're boring, right? I mean, muggles. To be a muggle is to be boring. Unfortunately, we're all muggles, but there is something about a muggle that is particularly boring. What about muggles? Muggles are boring, one-dimensional people. They're blind, in a sense, to what's going on in the greater spiritual realm. They're easily overwhelmed. If I was going to create a movie about this, I know we already have a great movie about this, but I might create the Muggles in black and white. I think that would be a good theatrical kind of a strategy with Muggles. They're very much black and white characters. They are characters that do not understand the full ramifications of reality, right? They can't see half of what's really going on. Muggles. Then there's the magical spiritual realm, right? The one that Harry Potter is about, that is beautiful, that is magical, that there's so much going on, that is incredible and wonderful. And with that, we see that is much more celebrated in this text. The Muggles are seen as boring and goofy and stupid, and the people in the magical realm, people at Hogwarts, are seen as wonderful and without limitation, if you will. Now, take this to the next level, and you might say that in some ways, Rawlings is talking about those who embrace the spiritual realm. People of faith are people who see things much more broadly. Now, I'm going out on a limb here, but this is how I'm reading this text. I think it's very fascinating. What I'm seeing here is, in a sense, Rawlings is being critical of those who would interpret reality only in the material way, only in a material sense. But those who are people of faith, who have the courage to look beyond what they can see, touch, and feel, to what's beyond the physical realm, now these are people of great courage, and these are people of great imagination, who are really embracing the full reality of life. All right, so that's pretty fascinating, I think, and a major part of what's going on in this text, for sure. And then, finally, the novel employs a creative blend of archetypes. Carl Jung, I don't know if you're familiar with this name or not, but Carl Jung first applied the term archetype to literature. He recognized that they were universal patterns in all stories and mythologies, regardless of culture and historical period. And he hypothesized that part of the human mind contained a collective unconscious, shared by all members of the human species, a sort of universal primal memory. Interesting. Joseph Campbell, another guy, more recently took Jung's idea and applied them to world mythologies. He wrote an interesting text. I kind of struggle with this. I think it's a little goofy. He kind of goes a little far with it, but it says it's a text called "In a Hero with a Thousand Faces." He refines the concept of hero and hero's journey. George Lucas used Campbell's writings to formulate the Star Wars saga. But Campbell writes some interesting stuff about myths and mythologies that I think is fascinating. I don't take it too far, but it definitely plays an interesting role in our interpretation of Harry Potter, especially when it comes to archetypal patterns. And so the term archetype can be applied to several things. It can be applied to an image, an archetypal image, a theme, a symbol, an idea, a character type, or a plot pattern. These are things that the archetype can be applied to. Archetypes can be expressed in... It's kind of weird here. What happened? Archetypes... Let me just change this really fast. Archetypes can be expressed, I was about to say, right? Can be expressed in myths, dreams, literature, religions, fantasies, folklore, and other things. There are different types of archetypal journeys, and I think this is where this really comes into play in Harry Potter. The quest for identity is an archetypal journey. One of the things that we see in the text, don't ask questions. That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursleys. That was from the first chapter. Don't ask questions. This text takes on we see the quest for identity as an archetypal journey in Harry Potter. The quest for identity is an archetypal journey. Another one. I don't know why my notes got all messed up here, but let me just pull this here. Looking up. Oh boy. Computers. Love them and hate them. The warrior's journey to save his people. That's another type of archetypal journey. The warrior's journey to save his people. Harry is seen as the chosen one, I mentioned that, and his life has been marked in order to save his people. We see that right away, again. Another one, another archetypal journey, is the quest to rid the land of danger. That's an archetypal journey. The quest to rid the land of danger. To keep Voldemort from getting the Sorcerer's Stone, in other words, right? In this text. That's one of the key parts of the archetypal journey. Let's see, what else here? I've got a couple more here, and then I'm going to turn you loose. There are character types that are archetypal. And one of the key things we see here, I think, with Harry, is the transcendent hero archetype. I've looked through these. I feel like this fits well with Harry. I do feel like he's a blend of archetypes. And so I'm actually going to put a page of archetypes on Blackboard so you can see those notes. Check those out for a full listing. I basically just kind of read through those and kind of did my own research. Yeah, I did my own research on archetypes, but I'll leave it to you as you read through this. Read through the archetype page and you write about what you think archetypes fit this text better. Feel free to do that in your response or in your write-up about this book. But the transcendent hero archetype. It's the hero of tragedy whose fatal flaw brings about his downfall, but not without achieving some kind of transforming realization or wisdom. That's interesting. The hero of tragedy, whose fatal flaw. So Harry Potter obviously has some fatal flaws. There's definitely some character flaws in this young man. These flaws bring about his downfall or his major struggles. But not, and we see his struggles throughout this text. Again, I don't want to give away anything from the second half of the book, but what struggles does Harry have? What are the things that are keeping him back, that are holding him back in his life? Right? So these struggles help him achieve some kind of transforming realization or wisdom. We see this in Greek and in Shakespearean tragedies as well. So with that, I'm going to leave you to read the second half of the book, actually the whole book, and I'll pick up a lecture for next week in the next couple days. All right, have fun.